The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber hissed open with a sound that echoed through the vast hall. Admiral Jake Morrison stepped through the entrance, his dark blue uniform crisp and his medals gleaming under the artificial lights. Behind him walked Commander Lisa Barnes, her tablet clutched tightly in her hands as she tried to keep her nervousness from showing on her face. The chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in a perfect circle that rose up like an ancient amphitheater. Each seat was designed for a different alien species, some massive and others tiny, some filled with creatures that breathed different gases through specialized masks. At the center of it all stood a single podium where Morrison would soon have. To defend his entire species, Chancellor Vexhai clicked his mandibles together as Morrison approached. The insectoid leader of the Galactic Council stood nearly 8 feet tall, his chitinous armor gleaming black and green in the light. His compound. Eyes followed Morrison's every movement as the human admiral walked to the center of the chamber. Admiral Morrison of the Terran Federation. Vexhai's voice buzzed through the translator device attached to his throat. You stand before this council to answer serious charges against your species. Morrison stopped at the podium and placed his hands behind his back in a military stance. He had practiced this moment for months, knowing that everything he said here would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. Around him, dozens of alien eyes watched and waited. Ambassador Zorth rose from her crystalline seat, her body refracting the chamber lights into rainbow patterns across the walls. The silicon-based life form spoke in musical tones that the translators converted into words. The Terran Integration Accords were signed 50 years ago when humanity first joined our galactic community. These accords specifically limited your military capabilities to ensure peace among all species. Barnes shifted uncomfortably behind Morrison as she watched the proceedings. She had read the accords countless times, and she knew that technically humanity had never violated them. But she also knew what the Council didn't know, and that knowledge made her stomach twist with anxiety. General Krex stood up from his seat with a heavy thud that shook the floor. The reptilian warrior was covered in thick scales and stood nearly 9 feet tall, his massive claws clicking against his armor as he moved. Our deep space monitoring stations had detected unusual energy signatures near your outer colonies. These readings suggest military installations far beyond what your records allow. Morrison remained perfectly still as Krex continued his accusations. The reptilian general's yellow eyes glared down at the human admiral as he spoke. Your species was granted membership in this council because you appeared to be a peaceful, technologically primitive race. If you have been deceiving us, the consequences will be severe. The chamber filled with murmurs and clicking sounds as various alien species discussed the charges among themselves. Morrison could hear fragments of conversation through his translator, most of it expressing doubt about humanity's honesty and calls for immediate action. Admiral Morrison, Chancellor Vexhai's voice cut through the noise. How do you respond to these accusations? Morrison stepped forward slightly and cleared his throat. Honored Chancellor, esteemed members of the Galactic Council, humanity has always been committed to peace and cooperation with all species in this galaxy. That is not an answer to our question. Ambassador Zorth's crystalline form pulsed with different colors as she spoke. General Krex has presented evidence of military activities that violate your accords. We demand a full explanation. Barnes felt her heart racing as she watched Morrison face down the entire Galactic Council. She knew that he was about to make a decision that would change everything, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped her tablet tighter. Morrison looked around the chamber slowly, meeting the eyes of as many council members as possible. If the council believes that humanity has violated the Terran Integration Accords, then I invite you to conduct a full inspection of all human military installations. The chamber erupted in surprised sounds from dozens of different species. This was not what anyone had expected. Most species who were caught violating galactic law would try to negotiate or make excuses. Morrison's immediate acceptance of an inspection caught everyone off guard. General, Krex's eyes narrowed as he studied Morrison's face. You would allow unrestricted access to all of your military facilities? Yes, Morrison replied without hesitation. Humanity has nothing to hide from this council. You may inspect any installation, any ship, any weapon system that you wish to examine. Chancellor Vexhigh's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed this unexpected development. This is highly unusual, Admiral. Most species would at least attempt to negotiate the terms of such an inspection. We are not most species, Morrison said simply. If the Council requires proof of humanity's compliance with galactic law, then we will provide that proof. Barnes knew that Morrison was playing a dangerous game. She had seen the classified reports, knew about the hidden installations and secret projects that existed throughout human space. Yet here he was, seemingly offering the aliens complete access to everything. Ambassador Zorth's crystalline body flickered through several color patterns as she consulted with other council members through private communication channels. After several minutes, she spoke again. Very well, Admiral Morrison. The Council accepts your offer of unrestricted inspection. We will need 72 hours to prepare for your arrival, Morrison said. Our installations are spread across multiple star systems, and coordinating access will require some time. General Krex snorted, a sound like steam escaping from a pressure valve. 72 hours should be sufficient to hide any evidence of violations. General, Morrison's voice remained calm and professional. If humanity intended to hide evidence, we would not have agreed to an inspection in the first place. The 72 hours will be used solely for logistical coordination and ensuring the safety of your inspection teams. Chancellor Vexhigh raised one of his clawed hands for silence. The Council agrees to a 72-hour preparation period. Admiral Morrison, you will escort our inspection fleet personally to ensure full cooperation. Of course, Chancellor. Barnes watched as Morrison bowed slightly to the Council, a gesture of respect that seemed to please many of the alien representatives. She knew that he was stalling for time, but she couldn't understand why. The hidden human military installations were impossible to conceal from a determined inspection. As the formal session ended, and the various alien delegates began filing out of the chamber, Morrison caught sight of Captain Ryan Hayes waiting near one of the exits. Hayes commanded the human escort vessel that had brought them to the Council station, and Morrison could see the question in his eyes. Morrison walked over to Hayes and placed a hand on his shoulder. Captain, please send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them that Operation Revelation is a go. Hayes nodded and hurried away to send the message. Barnes approached Morrison, her face full of confusion and worry. Admiral, what is Operation Revelation? She asked quietly. Morrison looked back at the empty council chamber and smiled slightly. Commander Barnes, it's time for the galaxy to learn what humanity has really been building for the past 50 years. The secure communication reached Earth Command 37 minutes after Captain Hayes sent it from the Galactic Council station. President Helen Carter was in the middle of reviewing trade agreements when her aide burst into the Oval Office with the encrypted message. Her face went pale as she read Morrison's words about Operation Revelation. Within 2 hours, every member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff had gathered in the underground bunker beneath the Pentagon. The room was filled with tension as military leaders, who had kept humanity's greatest secret for decades, prepared to finally reveal the truth. President Carter sat at the head of a long table, her fingers drumming nervously against the polished surface. General Marcus Webb stood up and activated the holographic display that filled the center of the room. Images of star charts and military installations appeared in the air, showing locations that officially did not exist. Webb was a tall man with gray hair and stern eyes that had seen too many classified briefings to count. "Ladies and gentlemen," Webb began, "for 50 years we have maintained the illusion that humanity is a primitive species barely capable of interstellar travel. Today, that illusion ends. The hologram shifted to show Earth's solar system, but not as the Galactic Council knew it. Hidden bases appeared on asteroids, cloaked stations orbited in the shadows of planets, and defensive installations covered the moon's far side. President Carter had seen these images before, but they still took her breath away. Colonel Danny Roberts stepped forward to address the group. He was younger than most of the other officers in the room, but his expertise in space warfare made him invaluable to humanity's secret military program. Our deep space reconnaissance detected the first alien ruins 43 years ago on a dead world in the Centauri system. What we found there changed everything. A hologram now displayed images of ancient alien structures, their technology far more advanced than anything humanity had developed. Roberts continued his briefing as the images shifted to show human scientists working carefully to understand the alien devices they had discovered. Dr. Amanda Foster had been one of those scientists, and now she served as the head of Project Blackout, humanity's most classified research program. She was a small woman with bright eyes that seemed to see possibilities where others saw only problems. The alien ruins contained technology that was millions of years old, but still functional. We learned more about physics and engineering in 10 years than we had in the previous century. Foster activated another section of the hologram, showing sleek human ships that looked nothing like the crude vessels the Galactic Council had seen. These ships incorporated alien technology that had been reverse engineered and improved upon by human scientists. Their hulls were covered in metamaterials that could bend light around them, making them invisible to most sensors. The cloaking technology was our first major breakthrough, Foster explained. We discovered that the ancient aliens had developed ways to hide entire fleets from detection. We improved upon their designs and created stealth systems that surpass anything currently used by Council species. President Carter leaned forward in her chair. "Dr. Foster, how many ships are we talking about?" "Approximately 15,000 combat vessels of various sizes, Madam President, plus another 8,000 support ships, supply vessels, and mobile bases." The room fell silent as the implications of that number sank in. The entire Galactic Council fleet numbered less than 20,000 ships, and most of those were lightly armed patrol vessels. Humanity had secretly built a navy that could challenge the combined forces of every species in the galaxy. General Webb brought up another set of images showing massive construction projects throughout human space. "We didn't just build ships. We built an entire military infrastructure that exists in parallel to our civilian government." The hologram showed the moon as the aliens had never seen it. Beneath the familiar gray surface lay a fortress that stretched deep into the lunar core. Weapons batteries capable of destroying capital ships were hidden under retractable camouflage, and shield generators powerful enough to protect the entire Earth were built into the moon's structure. Katie Sullivan was responsible for coordinating the lunar defenses, and she had spent the last 15 years preparing for this moment. She was a tough woman who had grown up on military bases and understood the importance of being ready for war, even while hoping for peace. "Luna Base is more than just a fortress," Sullivan explained. "It's a command center that can coordinate our entire fleet and a manufacturing facility that can build replacement ships faster than the Council could destroy them." The images shifted again to show Mars, which appeared normal from a distance, but revealed its secrets under closer examination. The red planet's entire surface was covered with hidden shipyards and weapons factories. Thousands of workers lived in underground cities, building the tools of humanity's hidden war machine. Colonel Ashley Brooks had overseen the Mars project for the past 8 years. She was known for her attention to detail and her ability to manage complex construction projects while keeping them completely secret from alien observation. Mars produces approximately 200 new combat vessels per month, plus ammunition, spare parts, and advanced weapon systems. President Carter studied the faces around the table. These people had dedicated their careers to preparing for a day they all hoped would never come. How long can we maintain this deception once the inspection begins? Madam President, General Webb replied, we're not going to maintain the deception. Admiral Morrison's message indicates that he intends to reveal our true capabilities to the Galactic Council. Dr. Roger Clark, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. Clark was responsible for humanity's research stations in the outer solar system, where the most advanced weapons and defensive systems were being developed. The gas giant mining operations have given us access to resources that most species can only dream of. We've built weapons that could crack continents and ships that could survive direct hits from stellar flares. The hologram now displayed the true scope of humanity's military presence throughout the solar system. Jupiter's moons were covered with research facilities and weapons testing ranges. Saturn's rings hid automated defense platforms that could destroy fleets before they knew they were under attack. Even distant Pluto had been converted into a massive sensor array that could detect approaching ships from hundreds of light years away. The question now, President Carter said slowly, is whether we're ready to abandon 50 years of careful planning and reveal ourselves to the galaxy. General Webb nodded grimly. Morrison obviously believes we are. The inspection fleet will arrive in 68 hours, and when they do, they're going to see humanity as we really are. Foster pulled up one final image, showing the U-East Leviathan in all its terrifying glory. The massive dreadnought was larger than most space stations and carried enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. It had been humanity's most closely guarded secret for the past decade. The Leviathan and her sister ships are ready to deploy, Foster said quietly. Once we drop the veils, there will be no going back. President Carter stood up and looked around the room at the faces of the people who had helped build humanity's hidden empire. Then we'd better make sure we're ready for whatever comes next. The Galactic Council inspection fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, exactly 72 hours after Admiral Morrison's meeting with the Council. Admiral Vexmore stood on the bridge of his flagship Cosmic Judgment, studying the sensor readings with growing confidence that this inspection would expose humanity's deceptions once and for all. Vexmore was a member of the Karathi species, tall and thin with blue-gray skin and large black eyes that missed nothing. He had served in the Council fleet for over 40 years and had conducted dozens of similar inspections. Most species tried to hide their violations, but eventually the truth always came out. He expected this inspection to be no different. The inspection fleet consisted of 12 ships representing the major species of the Galactic Council. Each vessel carried sophisticated scanning equipment designed to detect hidden military installations and concealed weapons. Ambassador Zorth had insisted on joining the inspection personally, her crystalline form now occupying a specially designed chamber aboard the Cosmic Judgment. Captain Hayes guided his small escort vessel alongside the much larger alien ships. As they approached Earth, his ship appeared to be nothing more than a basic transport, equipped with minimal weapons and outdated technology. The alien officers who scanned his vessel saw exactly what they expected to see from primitive humanity. Admiral Morrison, Vexmore's voice crackled over the communication system. We are ready to begin our inspection of your military facilities. Morrison's image appeared on the main view screen of the Cosmic Judgment. He was standing on the bridge of what appeared to be another primitive human vessel, surrounded by simple controls and basic displays. Welcome to the Sol System, Admiral Vexmore. I'm prepared to escort you to our primary military installation. The inspection fleet followed Hayes toward Earth's moon, their sensors continuously scanning for any signs of hidden technology or concealed weapons. The readings showed exactly what the Galactic Council expected to find: a few basic communication arrays, some simple mining equipment, and what appeared to be a small military outpost on the lunar surface. General Krex studied the sensor data from his position aboard one of the escort vessels. The reptilian warrior had hoped to find evidence of major treaty violations, but the readings showed nothing more threatening than chemical rockets and primitive kinetic weapons. He began to wonder if the Council had been wrong about humanity's capabilities. Lieutenant Commander Brad Nelson was waiting for them at the lunar facility when the inspection teams landed. He was a young officer with a friendly smile who seemed eager to show the aliens around the base. The facility appeared to be exactly what humanity claimed it was: a basic research station with minimal defensive capabilities. "Welcome to Luna Base," Nelson said as he greeted the alien inspection teams. "I'm authorized to show you any part of our facility that you'd like to see." Ambassador Zorth's crystalline form reflected the artificial lights of the lunar base as she examined the simple human technology around her. The weapons she saw were barely capable of defending against pirates, much less posing a threat to the Galactic Council. "This is your primary military installation?" she asked through her translator. "Yes, Ambassador," Nelson replied. "We've concentrated most of our defensive resources here to protect Earth from potential threats." Admiral Vexmore walked through the corridors of the base with growing satisfaction. The humans had tried to make their facility look impressive with polished floors and neat uniforms, but the technology was clearly decades behind Council standards. The weapon systems were so primitive that they would barely scratch the paint on a modern Council warship. Dr. Janet Adams joined the inspection tour as they reached the weapons control center. She was a middle-aged woman with graying hair who served as the base's chief technical officer. "Our defensive systems are designed to handle the types of threats that a developing species like humanity might encounter," she explained to the alien visitors. The aliens examined the human weapons with barely concealed amusement. The missile systems used chemical propulsion that was laughably slow by galactic standards. The energy weapons were based on simple laser technology that most Council species had abandoned centuries ago. Even the base's shields were nothing more than basic electromagnetic barriers. "General," Krex turned to Admiral Vexmore with obvious disappointment. "These weapons couldn't threaten a cargo hauler, much less a military vessel. Perhaps our intelligence was wrong about humanity's capabilities." Nelson overheard the comment and smiled politely. "We've always believed that the best defense is to appear non-threatening to potential enemies. Our philosophy has always been to avoid conflicts rather than prepare for them." The inspection team spent several hours examining every corner of the lunar base. They found storage areas filled with conventional ammunition, maintenance bays containing simple spacecraft, and living quarters that housed a few hundred human personnel. Everything they saw confirmed their belief that humanity was exactly what they appeared to be: a peaceful species with limited military capabilities. "Ambassador," Zorth was preparing to declare the inspection complete when her sensors detected an unusual energy reading from deep within the lunar structure. The reading was faint and intermittent, appearing for only a few seconds before disappearing again. "Dr. Adams, what is the source of these energy fluctuations?" Adams checked her tablet and looked puzzled. "I'm not sure, Ambassador. Perhaps there's a malfunction in one of our power systems. Would you like me to investigate?" Before Zorth could answer, the energy readings spiked dramatically. The alien sensors suddenly detected massive power sources throughout the lunar base, far beyond anything they had seen during their inspection. Admiral Vexmore grabbed his scanner and watched in amazement as the readings climbed. Higher and higher. Nelson received a communication through his earpiece and nodded slightly. He looked up at the alien inspection teams with the same friendly smile he had worn all day. "Actually, Ambassador Zorth, I think it's time for you to see what Luna Base really is." The floor beneath their feet began to vibrate slightly, and a low humming sound filled the air. The walls around them started to shift and change, revealing that what they had thought was solid rock was actually advanced metamaterial camouflage. Sections of the lunar surface that had appeared natural were now folding back like flower petals opening to the sun. Admiral Dexmore stepped outside the base and looked up at the lunar sky with growing alarm. Massive structures were rising from beneath the moon's surface, each one larger than his flagship. Weapon emplacements that had been completely invisible to their sensors were now clearly visible, their barrels pointing toward the inspection fleet. "What is this?" General Krex demanded, his claws extending as his natural fighting instincts activated. Dr. Adams checked her tablet again and looked up with a slight smile. "This is Luna Base as it really exists, General. What you saw during your inspection was our guest quarters. These are our actual defensive systems." The transformation continued around them as more and more hidden structures revealed themselves. The entire lunar surface was covered with weapons, shields, and defensive installations that made the inspection fleet's weapons look like toys by comparison. Each gun battery was larger than most Council military bases, and there were hundreds of them. Ambassador Zorth's crystalline form flickered through several colors as she tried to process what she was seeing. "How is this possible? Our sensors detected none of this technology during our approach to your system." Nelson's friendly expression never changed. "Our stealth systems are quite effective, Ambassador. But Admiral Morrison felt it was time for the Galactic Council to see humanity as we really are." The transformation of Luna Base was only the beginning. As Admiral Dexmore watched the massive weapon systems rise from the lunar surface, his ship's sensors began detecting energy signatures throughout the solar system that had not been there. Moments before, what had appeared to be empty space was suddenly filled with contacts that made his blood run cold. Captain Hayes spoke calmly over the communication system as proximity alarms began screaming throughout the inspection fleet. "Admiral Dexmore, please do not be alarmed by what you are about to see. These are standard security measures that we activate when hosting important visitors." The space directly above the inspection fleet shimmered like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The shimmer grew larger and more intense until suddenly it vanished completely, revealing the most massive warship that any member of the inspection fleet had ever seen. The U.E.'s Leviathan hung in space above them like a mountain made of metal and weapons. Admiral Dexmore had to grab the railing of his bridge to steady himself as he stared up at the human dreadnought. The ship was easily 3 times the size of his flagship and bristled with weapon systems that he could not even identify. The hull was covered in armor plating that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, giving the vessel an ominous black appearance. Captain Steve Warren's voice came through the communication system from the bridge of the Leviathan. Warren was a veteran officer with 25 years of service in humanity's secret fleet, and his calm tone did nothing to ease the growing panic among the alien inspection teams. "This is Captain Warren of the U.E.'s Leviathan. We welcome the Galactic Council inspection fleet to our solar system." General Krex was frantically working his scanner as more and more ships appeared around them. What he had thought was a simple inspection of primitive human defenses had turned into something that resembled a military trap. "How many ships do you have?" he demanded. The answer came not from any single human voice, but from the evidence of their own sensors. Cloaking fields were dropping throughout the solar system as humanity revealed the true scope of their hidden fleet. Battleships appeared near Earth, cruisers materialized around Jupiter, and fighter squadrons became visible in the asteroid belt. Ambassador Zorth's crystalline form was cycling through colors so rapidly that her translator was having difficulty keeping up with her emotional state. This is impossible. Our intelligence networks would have detected military construction on this scale. Dr. Adams was still standing beside the alien inspection teams on the lunar surface, and she smiled as she watched their reactions to humanity's revelation. Ambassador, your intelligence networks saw exactly what we wanted them to see. Every ship you're detecting now was built in facilities that your sensors never found. The transformation continued as Mars revealed its true nature to the horrified alien observers. What had appeared to be a barely inhabited red planet suddenly showed signs of massive industrial activity. Ship after ship launched from hidden bays beneath the Martian surface, each one adding to the growing fleet that surrounded the inspection vessels. Colonel Ashley Brooks spoke from her command center deep beneath the Martian surface. Her voice was broadcast to all the alien ships simultaneously, ensuring that every member of the inspection fleet could hear her words. Mars Manufacturing Complex is now operating at full capacity. We can produce 200 combat vessels per month along with all necessary support equipment. The sheer scale of what they were seeing was beyond anything the Galactic Council had imagined possible. Admiral Lexmore tried to count the human ships appearing around them, but quickly gave up as the numbers climbed into the thousands. Each vessel was larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Council fleet. Dr. Roger Clark's research station near Jupiter began transmitting data about humanity's resource extraction operations. The gas giant's moons had been converted into massive mining and refining facilities that could process raw materials faster than entire star systems could consume them. Our deep space operations have been running continuously for 30 years, Clark explained. We've harvested enough resources to build a fleet capable of defending not just Earth, but our entire region of the galaxy. The aliens were beginning to understand that they were not just looking at a few hidden ships or secret weapons. They were witnessing the revelation of an entirely parallel civilization that had been growing in secret, while presenting a false face to the galaxy. Humanity had not just violated the Terran Integration Accords, they had rendered them completely meaningless. Captain Warren continued his calm commentary from the bridge of the Leviathan as more ships appeared around the inspection fleet. Each of our capital ships carries sufficient firepower to engage multiple Council vessels simultaneously. Our defensive systems are designed to protect against threats far beyond anything currently deployed by any known species. Admiral Morrison's voice finally joined the conversation from his position aboard. What the aliens now realized was not a primitive escort vessel, but a sophisticated command ship. Admiral Lexmore, I want to assure you that humanity has no aggressive intentions toward the Galactic Council or any of its member species. Lexmore found his voice, despite his shock at what he was witnessing. Admiral Morrison, what we are seeing here represents military power that exceeds the combined fleets of half the galaxy. How can you claim to have no aggressive intentions? Morrison's image appeared on the main view screen of every ship in the inspection fleet. His expression was serious, but not threatening as he addressed the alien officers, who were struggling to comprehend what they had discovered. Admiral, for 50 years, humanity has lived in a galaxy where our survival depended on the goodwill of species far more powerful than ourselves. We decided that we would never again be in a position where our fate was controlled by others. The revelation continued as automated defense platforms throughout the solar system came online. Asteroid bases that had been invisible to alien sensors now showed themselves, each one bristling with weapons capable of destroying capital ships. The outer planets revealed hidden installations that could detect and engage threats at ranges measured in light years. General Krex was studying his tactical displays with growing alarm. A defensive coverage of this system is absolute. Nothing could approach Earth without being detected and engaged by multiple weapon systems. Major Katie Sullivan spoke from her command center within Luna Base. Our planetary defense grid extends throughout human space. General, every colony world, every trading post, every research station is protected by similar installations. The scope of humanity's deception was becoming clear to the alien inspection teams. This was not a hastily constructed response to the Council's investigation. This was the result of decades of careful planning and construction, carried out in complete secrecy while maintaining the appearance of a peaceful, primitive species. Dr. Adams gestured toward the weapon systems that continued to rise from the lunar surface around them. We learned long ago that in a dangerous galaxy, it is better to be feared than pitied. But we also learned that it is better to be underestimated than feared, at least until the moment when you choose to reveal your true strength. Ambassador Zorth finally found her voice as the full implications of what they were seeing began to sink in. How long have you been planning this deception? Admiral Morrison answered from his command ship as human vessels continued to appear throughout the solar system. Ambassador, we began serious military construction 43 years ago when we discovered our first alien ruins. Everything you are seeing now is the result of humanity's determination to never again be dependent on others for our survival. The inspection fleet found itself surrounded by a human armada that numbered in the thousands, each ship representing technology that surpassed anything the Galactic Council possessed. The transformation was complete, and there was no hiding what humanity had become. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened just 18 hours after the inspection fleet returned from human space. The great chamber buzzed with frantic conversations in dozens of different languages as representatives from across the galaxy struggled to process what they had witnessed. Chancellor Vexhi's mandibles clicked nervously as he called for order in a room where panic was rapidly replacing the usual diplomatic calm. Admiral Vexmore stood at the center of the chamber, his normally confident bearing replaced by visible uncertainty. The images from his ship's sensors played on holographic displays around the room, showing the massive human fleet that had materialized from seemingly empty space. The numbers were staggering, and the implications terrifying. The human fleet numbers at least 15,000 combat vessels, Vexmore reported to the assembled delegates. Each ship incorporates technology that exceeds our current capabilities. Their defensive installations could repel an invasion fleet 10 times the size of our combined forces. Representative Korth of Fezalani Collective rose from his seat with obvious agitation. The small, gray-skinned alien's voice was high and sharp as he spoke through his translator. This represents a clear and immediate threat to galactic security. Humanity has violated every principle of the Integration Accords. Ambassador Zorth's crystalline form pulsed with angry red patterns as she addressed the chamber. They did not simply violate the Accords. They made a mockery of our entire system of galactic law. While we believed them to be peaceful primitives, they were building an empire in secret. General Krex paced back and forth in the space reserved for military advisors, his claws clicking against the floor with each step. The question is not whether humanity violated the Accords. The question is what we can do about it now that we know the truth. Chancellor Vexhi raised one clawed hand for silence. The Council must decide how to respond to this revelation. Do we treat humanity as a threat to be contained, or as a power to be negotiated with? The chamber erupted in arguments as different species proposed wildly different solutions. Some called for immediate military action to force humanity back into compliance with galactic law. Others argued that any attempt to use force against such a powerful fleet would result in catastrophic losses for the Council. President Helen Carter's image appeared on the main communication screen at the front of the chamber. She had requested permission to address the Council directly, and her presence caused the arguing voices to fall silent. Behind her stood Admiral Morrison and General Webb, both in full military dress uniforms. Honored members of the Galactic Council, President Carter began. I understand that recent revelations about humanity's military capabilities have caused concern among your species. I am here to address those concerns directly. Chancellor Vexhai leaned forward in his seat. President Carter, your species has deceived this council for 50 years. How can we trust anything you say now? Carter's expression remained calm and diplomatic despite the hostile atmosphere in the chamber. Chancellor, humanity never lied to the Galactic Council. We simply never volunteered information that was not requested. Your species made assumptions about our capabilities based on limited observations. Representative Korth stood up again, his voice rising with indignation. You built a military force capable of conquering half the galaxy while pretending to be peaceful explorers. How is that not deception? Admiral Morrison stepped forward to address the chamber. Representative Korth, humanity built a military force capable of defending our colonies and our interests. We have never used that force for conquest or aggression against any council species. General Webb activated a holographic display that showed human space and the territories of various council member species. Every human military installation is located within our recognized territorial boundaries. We have not established bases in neutral space or threatened any other species. Colonies. Ambassador Zorth's form flickered through several color patterns as she processed this information. But the scale of your military buildup suggests preparation for large-scale warfare, not simple defense. Carter nodded in acknowledgement of the concern. Ambassador, humanity learned early in our galactic history that the universe is a dangerous place. We encountered evidence of species that had been wiped out by aggressive neighbors, entire civilizations that vanished because they could not defend themselves. The chamber fell quiet as Carter continued her explanation. We decided that humanity would never suffer that fate. We would build whatever defenses were necessary to ensure our survival, but we would not use those defenses to threaten others, unless we were threatened first. Commander Lisa Barnes stepped into view behind the human delegation. She carried a data tablet containing formal proposals that humanity had prepared for this moment. The human government is prepared to offer the Galactic Council a new framework for cooperation between our species. Chancellor Vexhai's compound eyes focused on Barnes as she approached the communication screen. What kind of framework are you proposing? Carter gestured for Barnes to present the human proposals. Humanity requests full membership in the Galactic Council with voting rights proportional to our military and economic capabilities. In exchange, we offer our advanced technology and military protection to council members who prove themselves to be reliable allies. The chamber exploded with reactions to this unexpected proposal. Some species were outraged at humanity's apparent attempt to use their military power to gain political influence. Others were intrigued by the possibility of accessing advanced human technology and military protection. General Krex studied the human delegation with new respect. You are not asking for forgiveness for your deception. You are demanding recognition as equals. Morrison nodded firmly. General, humanity has proven that we belong among the major powers of this galaxy. We are prepared to take on the responsibilities that come with that recognition. Representative Korth was shaking his head in disbelief. You cannot simply declare yourselves a major power and expect the Council to accept it. Admiral Morrison's voice carried a subtle warning as he responded. Representative, we are not declaring ourselves anything. We are simply revealing what we have always been. The choice facing the Council is whether to acknowledge reality or continue living in denial. Chancellor Vexhai called for a recess to allow the Council members to discuss the human proposals among themselves. The chamber filled with frantic conversations as different species tried to decide how to respond to humanity's Dramatic revelation. When the session resumed 3 hours later, the atmosphere had changed significantly. Many of the smaller species had realized that they could benefit from human protection against larger, more aggressive neighbors. The major powers were forced to acknowledge that humanity could no longer be ignored or dismissed. Ambassador Zorth spoke for the majority when she addressed President Carter. The Council is prepared to consider your proposals, but we require guarantees that human military power will not be used for aggressive expansion. Carter smiled for the first time since the session began. Ambassador, humanity seeks partnership, not domination. We offer our strength to protect the peace, not to conquer new territories. The final vote was closer than many expected, but the result was clear. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with expanded rights and recognition. As one of the galaxy's major powers, the age of human deception was over, replaced by an era of acknowledged strength and growing influence. As the session ended and the various delegations prepared to leave, Admiral Morrison reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. Humanity had emerged from the shadows, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The future was uncertain, but it would be a future where humanity stood as equals among the stars, no longer hiding their true strength, but using it to protect themselves and their allies in a dangerous universe.